Welcome, everybody. Greetings of peace and welcome. My name is Anthea Alexander. I am a coach and mentor, and I'm joined this evening by my esteemed colleagues, Yogi Sanjiva, or Sanji, as we lovingly know him, and also Rae Dalai. And Yogi Sanji is joining us from Sri Lanka, and Rae is joining us from far north Queensland. And I am based in Melbourne. And basically, we are here for a discussion. Our broader topic is living consciously in 2026. And each week, so we have this we gather together each Friday evening, 8 p.m. Melbourne, Australian Daylight Savings Time at the moment, and we gather together to discuss different topics of interest. And basically, our topic for this evening is a bit of a heavy one, but we certainly infuse moments of humor and the humanity and light as much as possible, and love throughout our discussions. So although it's a bit of a heavy topic, but it is a topic that is increasingly affecting people, and it has been, from my standpoint, more and more discussed in recent years. So I think it's a very interesting topic. So basically, it's trauma and trauma recovery. It may go over this week, but we'll deal with that as we get to that. So basically, a little bit more about myself. Based in Melbourne, as I said, I work predominantly with women to basically promote their sovereignty in areas of physical health, mental health, and financial health. I also have interest in spirituality and emotional well-being. So basically, I'm about healing. I'm about helping people to heal in whatever way, shape, or form that they're wanting to. So I help to promote healing. And that's my passion in this life. I will now pass it over to Rae, and she can talk a little bit more about herself and her what she does. And then we'll pass it over to Sanji, and then we'll get our topic for discussion going for this week. So over to you, Rae.
Oh, hi everyone. Thank you again for inviting me along. It's always wonderful to have a chat on a Friday afternoon, Friday evening. So my background is I was a nurse for a long time, 30-something years, and working in many different fields in nursing. And I took up pottery as a hobby for a bit of work-life balance and fell in love with pottery. And now I'm able to work with pottery full time. And as a natural sort of progression for me, I've focused my pottery on making things for the funeral industry. So I make cremation urns and especially custom urns to help people with their grief and healing and whatever they need to do to get over their grief and trauma. So that's what I do all day, every day now, and I just love it. I find it very rewarding, and just very, very natural for me to have gone that way. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Anthea. Thank you, Rae. So yeah, I'm Sanji, as Anthea said, and then Sanjeeva. I'm a meditation teacher. I'm currently working uh, in a eco lodge, sorry. And there are many people we meet on regular basis here also, and online. There are sessions done online and all. So I think it's a great topic we are talking about: stress and trauma, all these things, anxiety, depression, even even more serious, like suicidal, no, or those kind of things are increasing more and more. But we'll start with the proper definition. So introduction and all that things, why it can be caused, and then what can be our personal experience. So I also think like everybody, from I think as a child also many people can go through, and we'll talk about these things. So I think in one way or another, there's always something like scars, when you have a wound, still there are the scars left, right? So likewise, there are something, but we don't have to create. Some people just get over these things. No, some people need some additional help. No, so we can talk about these things. I think it's a good topic, and we can start from a place where it's like what recognize it. Some people may not know it. There was a nice lady from the UK also. She used to talk about trauma. She had gone through a lot of things. Actually, in the YouTube, that series is also there, and uh, she uh, she knew the somatic therapies and all these kind of things. She in her life also she had gone through a lot of things. So, but she recovered and she came through like all of us. No, there was something. No, it depends on each person. No, what I went through. So yeah, I hand it over to Anthea. We can start with the topic. No, and surely Rae must have seen many people. No, in her as a nurse and all. No, and what she had to go through, or like seeing that some people can get traumatized, right? Through the things that are. So let's dive in, no, about the topic.
Okay, so just before we start talking about our chosen topic, we wanted to also share that anybody is welcome to join us for these conversations live, or you're also welcome to watch the replay. And if you have any comments or feedback, feel free to contact any of us individually. Or if you're wanting to work with any of us individually, feel free to contact us. We'd love to hear from you. Also, in terms of ideas for topics of discussion, we're quite happy to discuss pretty much any topic as long as it's discussed with respect. And coming from yeah, basically respect. That's what we're asking for. So starting with our topic, I did a bit of research, and it's certainly a topic that I have been exploring more and more from a personal point of view more recently. So in terms of a definition, so trauma, it can be different types of trauma. So it can be like a physical trauma. So in medicine, they talk about trauma as being wounds. Rae can probably elaborate a bit more on
Sure.
that. But in terms of the type of trauma that we are discussing from my point of view, and Sanji and Rae, please, feel free to add your thoughts in. It's more of an emotional, psychological trauma that we're discussing here tonight. And so it's about an emotional experience. So it could be a terrible event, something like an accident, a crime, natural disaster. So from that, it's sort of coming that it's, it could be quite sudden and out of left field. It might be totally unexpected, or it may be something with a natural disaster. Sometimes there's warnings from nature, sometimes there's warnings from authorities, but the way that it impacts us could be quite different from what we are expecting. And so reactions, and we can talk more about this as we go as well. So reactions like being in shock or denying that it's happened entirely are quite normal or typical. What I also wanted to talk about were 3 different types of trauma. So it talks about acute trauma, which I mentioned before. Well, acute, sudden, could be a single incident, perhaps an accident that happens. Then we've got chronic trauma, and that's repeated over a longer period of time. So that could be something like abuse, psychological, emotional, physical abuse. And then we've got also complex trauma, and that could be quite varied and multiple events. often invasive and interpersonal. So it's something that is like invades your sense of security and sense of who you are, and interpersonal between other people. And yeah, what I would also love to discuss a bit more, and as we mentioned, just touched upon, that it may be that we discuss this over another evening, and that's perfectly fine because there's no hurry. This is same time, same place, same back channel every Friday night, unless there's some other reason we can't join. So I also am quite intrigued by trauma bonds, which are bonds between a victim and a perpetrator of abuse. So I would love to discuss more about that. And we would also love to discuss recovery from trauma, because that's basically what we all work around in our different fields of expertise. We're all about helping people to heal and adapt and adjust and perform, to be the best version of themselves in this lifetime. So I'll hand it over to Rae now, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this topic, Rae, and what you'd like to add.
Okay, thank you for outlining the different types of trauma. You've structured it a bit for me, because it's very hard without any structure to pinpoint what to go on. So I think I'll start talking about from a nursing perspective, because a lot of nurses, especially older nurses like me, we burn out. We just can't do it anymore. And it's really interesting because it's never just one event. Because I've had some really horrific, like multi-victim tragedies that I've had to deal with. There was a gas explosion in Cairns, right next door to a pub. So there were 10 or 12 men in the pub that were very seriously burnt. They all came into hospital together, and at the time I'd have already worked a morning shift, and this happened at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I just kept working until midnight that night without any dramas at all. And I would not say that I was traumatized with that event at all, because I had colleagues that we just talked to each other the whole time. But that on its own was fine. But then when the next thing happened, it was a bit worse. And then we had a young man, very young man, a crane fell on his chest, and he was wide awake when he came into the emergency department. He basically died in our arms. It was just awful. Another young man died from a seatbelt injury, again, wide awake, perfectly fine. We thought, oh, maybe he's cracked a few ribs, but he'd actually ruptured his aorta. So he had a slow leak, and eventually it just let go, and his whole blood volume just drained into his chest, and he again died in our arms. Now, that on its own it's awful, but it's okay. You can talk about it, it's gone. But when it's on top of the gas explosion, which is on top of a traumatic amputation, which is on top of someone that lost their leg from a motorbike injury that got infected, it accumulates. And in nursing, we've certainly not found a way to get around that. It basically gets us all by the end, and we all leave very traumatized by the end of our career. So we need to do a lot more work around that. We coped better when we were young, and plus we all used to live together. We lived in the nurses' quarters. So we'd knock off work at 11 o'clock at night, and we'd all be in the communal dining area together. How was your shift? Or this happened on mine, and I got in trouble for this on my shift, and everything would come out immediately. We didn't accumulate. We didn't have to stew on it or try to deal with it ourselves. It was very therapeutic, I think. And now there's no nurses' quarters left. They tore them all down. So everybody goes home to their own homes with no one to talk. You cannot talk to your family about what you see, not only from the confidential point of view, but most normal people can't handle what I've just told you. They don't want to hear even the broad details, let alone the nitty-gritty that really gets to us. And you certainly can't talk about something your colleagues may not have done 100% correctly, because we're all human in high pressure, very fast-paced situations, and mistakes happen. There's no one else to talk to except another nurse. Yeah, not even a doctor is on the same wavelength. Yeah, so that's a whole different basket of trauma. And then I think about how I handled trauma as a child. When I was 10, we used to all play outside on our push bikes all day, and we decided that we lived in a tiny little town called Kirai, and just outside Kirai there was a big steep hill that went into a creek, and then another steep hill out the other side, and we used to roar down that hill on our push bikes. And this day I put my 6-year-old brother on the back of the bike of my new dragster push bike, and away we went down the hill, and about halfway down we got a speed wobble. And the front wheel got worse and worse until over the handlebars we both went, and I skidded along the bitumen on my face.
Oh.
Yeah, I can tell you exactly the spot that I did it, even today. 50 years later, I can tell you exactly where I fell off that bike, and I ripped all my face and needed heaps of stitches and everything. And the way I got over that, and many other traumas, was it replays in your mind. The sound of you can hear the bitumen going past your face, and the feel of it ripping, and your brother yelling at the back, and all of that just replays. And I just let it play over and over until I was bored with it. And it was gone. And then I just loved my scars. I thought they were fantastic. My mother had a fit. She was holding my hand and crying and going, she's a girl, don't let her see scars. And I was like, yeah, scars. It was amazing. So yeah, brings me to another point, is that something that is traumatic to one person isn't traumatic to another. Like that was a physical trauma that I quickly got over. It probably took 2 days of replaying that incident over and over again, and I was completely at peace with it. And it was fine. But my mother, she still can remember how frightened she was and how anxious, and she thought her baby girl would be, her face would be ruined. I don't know, probably thought no one would marry me and she'd never get rid of me. I don't know. But yeah, so it's a very individual thing, trauma. It's very interesting. And so for me, I was just so lucky that I value scars. I think they're beautiful, and they're a story to wear on your body like a tattoo. I love them. But yeah, other people, my daughter Chloe hates scars. She thinks she will spend thousands of dollars trying to get a scar removed. She just thinks they're horrible. Very interesting, very, very individual. And there's one other point that I'd like to make. I'll tell you a story about my best friend Connie. So she nursed with me as well. I met her nursing. She was a bit older than me and a lot more experienced and a lot more level-headed. She was a Capricorn and I'm an Aquarian. You can imagine I'm off with the fairies, and Connie's very down-to-earth, level-headed. Well, Connie had Connie's marriage broke down, and she had this new boyfriend that used to fly to Cairns from Sydney every couple of months, and they'd spend a few days together. It was all very romantic, and she loved him very much, very, very much. And one time when he rang her and said, I'm coming up, she just got a premonition that things were not going to go well. Anyway, so he came to visit and had a massive heart attack while he was here, and ended up in intensive care for about a week and then died. And that's traumatic in itself. But what Connie didn't know was that this man was married. So the wife turned up. So Connie's trying to visit this love of her life in intensive care. Then his wife walked in. So she took on the role of just his good friend. And then his other girlfriend turned up as well. So she had to hold it together for all of those women and herself, and never admit to anyone, not even us, not even her friends, how awful that whole situation was. But it was devastating for her on its own. But having to put a lid on it at the time, just suppressed it all. And then about 10 years later, one of her friends, he was in his late 40s, he had a yachting accident in the harbour. They were anchored, and she thinks he climbed the mast and fell. And he just disappeared off the boat, and they found his body a couple of days later, right? So he had no next of kin, and she had to organise the funeral, and she just fell to pieces. She completely lost it. This capable, earthy woman, and what was happening was all the suppressed trauma from the boyfriend all came out for this guy. And she luckily went and saw somebody like Anthea, and talked about it. And that person very wisely told her, just use this whole funeral process as you would have liked to have done for your boyfriend that you lost. Of course, Connie couldn't do the funeral for the boyfriend because the wife, was just awful. So, and because she used to have panic attacks and not know where they came from. She's absolutely debilitated by this suppressed trauma. And by going through all the funeral process for her friend on the yacht, she managed to put to sleep or come to terms with the death of the love of her life. Yeah, very interesting. Just everything just so individual. Yeah, I've probably talked too much. The only other thing I can add is what I do with my work, which is fascinating, because every person that comes to me for an urn, it's completely different. You can't guess what they need. I very often have to slow them down. They have a bit of an idea of what they want. They're always trying to pay tribute to the pet or the person, or very often the baby that they've lost. Sometimes that usually the baby has passed decades ago, and it takes them that long to be finally ready to have a permanent resting place. So I found the best thing I can do is slow them down and go, righto, we could do this. Now you think about it. And often takes them a month to think about what I've said, and because I do mock-ups. How does that look? And gradually, the last baby urn that I did took 6 months to get the artwork right. So we ended up with the actual baby's footprint on the urn. Oh, I'm going to cry. And the actual baby's handprint, which is like this big, tiny little handprint, and a little poem that the lady and her 2 other children had written together to this baby. Oh, it's the most beautiful thing. And she'd made a foundation for this child, and which had a logo, and the baby's name was Lily, I think, and the foundation's name was Lilybug. So we had this little purple ladybird logo on the urn as well. It ended up the most beautiful thing. And it was very healing for her. She when she got the urn, she wrote to me and said that she just cried. And I know I've got it right. When they open the box that's come in the mail, and out comes their urn, and they're holding it in their hands, and the tears, and the whole family has a big cry. And it's finally put to bed or put in its place. It's a very healing. I don't really like the word closure, but they feel like they've done the right thing for themselves and for that departed little one. Yeah, so I get to do that nearly every day. So it's amazing. And it doesn't have to be a baby. I've had the same reaction. There's a gentleman that I'm working with right now who breeds rabbits, which Australians think is really weird, because rabbits are a feral animal in Australia and we're trying to get rid of them. But he breeds like proper rabbits, little floppy, cute, proper, pet rabbits, not wild rabbits. And he has to, his urn is he's so particular. It has to be the right shape and the right color, and he puts a little plaque on it. And the most recent rabbit he lost was a year ago. But it's interesting. It's the same process. I had to slow him down because he kept feeling like he was letting me down by not knowing exactly what he wanted. And it's like, no, honey, this is all about you. When you're ready, when you're happy, exactly happy with what we're going to do, then I'll put it together. Or sometimes I always say, here's the finished urn. Are you happy with it? And they usually are, but if they're not, we just keep going until it's like get the right band-aid for the wound. It just has to be just right, and I understand that, and it's lovely. It's very healing for me as well. It's just such a privilege. Yeah. So all different aspects of the same thing. Yeah, it's quite amazing, and every single person is very different.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could talk all night.
Yeah. No, it's good, no?
Yeah. So I don't know. The only other thing that comes to mind is some people are the opposite, especially the people that are dealing with a traumatic death that they weren't expecting. They want to learn right now, and they'll walk into my showroom and go, that one. And that's it. Their mind's made up, the decision's made, and that's the end of it. And those sort of people are trying to get the job done. Yeah, and that's fine as well. But it needs to be something that speaks to them. It'll be a yellow, and then they'll go, "Oh, Mum loved yellow, that one." And I've got a cat now that wants to help. Yeah, so you just have to be really flexible with people and listen to them. They'll tell you. Just say, "What do you need? What do you need?" And they'll tell you, and you just try and fulfill that need. That's how I work anyway. Anthea might have probably got a whole different process.
Not particularly. I think what you've shared is really beautiful, Rae. So, and I'm fascinated and quite humbled and honoured to hear how you work with people, and I can see it from different points of view because I've been on the other side of coming to someone and making funeral arrangements, wanting to go through the process and trying to navigate grief. So I can see it from both points of view, and I think the fact that you give people a lot of space and a lot of support, and they're coming to you and they're probably, as you say, not trying to put you out because they see you as someone who has a job to do, but they don't quite understand that your job is about supporting them in whatever emotional way that they need as well. So you're much more than just allowing for a physical means for them to put to rest their loved pets or family members or loved ones. Yeah. So thank you very much for sharing that. All right, over to you, Sanji.
I'll
be
just
fascinated to hear what you've got to say as well.
I'll just try to bring spiritual approach to those. So I just feel like from people I talk and personally and all these things, like it seems like water is flowing and it's flowing in one direction, no? And then it might hit some in a way like a bank or something, and the flow starts going in a different way. No, like it can have a turn or a twist. Usually the flow is just happening, but there could be a flood or some cyclone or something like that, or some disaster that came, or like some different, no, in the pattern. And then now and then, not only that, when like a bank or some place is weak, like the water starts like going from that direction or the lower range, no, the weakest point, no. So like that. In ancient times also it is said like some people it was very difficult to get out of their trauma, no, so some people even like there were ladies carrying their dead baby, and and it says no, and then that ancient master, he had to say like because she was going to doctors to cure the baby, right? She then what happened was like that ancient master said like okay, I can cure your baby, sorry. Yeah. And then he said like go and get me some mustard seeds. So she thought it is real medicine, no, because like, some with this spices or condiments you can make medicines, right? So because nobody uh, accepted, no, and somebody was calling her insane and all these things. So she thought actually this person is right trying to do like cure the baby, no, and must have been like the corpse must have gone bad and a lot of things must have happened by that time, right? And and you see animals also, no, sometimes monkeys, and they carry their sometimes babies that are even dead for some time, no, and even bigger elephants and these kind of animals, what they do is sorry, they kind of like mourn and like we feel sad about it for days on, right? So uh, then uh, the person asked this lady to get some mustard seeds, but he said there's one thing you have to ask from a house that nobody had passed away. So she went from door to door and door to door, and because she wants to get the medicine for the child, no? And then she asked like, "Do you have mustard? No, my baby is sick and all these things." And yeah, they sure we have mustard. And then she asked like, has somebody died in this place? And they said yes, like my grandfather's parents or my parents, or sometimes like their own babies or children, no? And then she went to the then no, thank you, I'll go and try again. She went to the next house, next house, next house, next house, like that, and then until she realized there nobody that who didn't lose anybody, no? Maybe their grandparents or before that, no? Somebody. Then what she did was, it seems like uh, she had placed the child's corpse in the grave, and she had come and said like, "Sir, I found mustard, but I found nobody whose relative or anybody has not passed." So I understand, no? Then he said like, the medicine is needed for not the people who passed, but for the living. So yeah, it's like, and then there was another person. He was in deep sorrow, and luckily he also met a spiritual leader, and he was a good person, no, and man. And he asked like, "Why are you sad?" And then he said like, "Because my only child passed away." And I wait for him and all this, because those were ancient days, right? Not like modern days even. You have to wait till and he said, even if my child gets late, I send a messenger and trying to get the details of this child, or send a message. Then he asked like, why are you sad? No? He said, so many reasons, right? And then he asked like, what do you think? Like your family members, uh, are they sad? Yes. He said, maybe surely like me, or even maybe I am the one who's the most sad. Uh, Maybe they are not so sad, but I think they are sad. Then he asked, what about your neighbor? He said, no, like maybe, or your relatives. Yeah. Then maybe a person in the city. Like that, he expanded it. So finally, he came to a conclusion like, people who are far away, they didn't even know his son passed away, no? So we have to see like, what are the reasons people go through this trauma, and why is it affected? No, some people like, they say they go through a lot of things, but they can just maybe like dust themselves and get out, no? So even mental trauma, right? There's physical trauma, mental trauma, no? And from physically, it can happen to mentally, and then it vice versa. Like can help something thinking, and going on, and then maybe your limbs don't work properly, or your immune system drops. That can also happen, right? So there are so many things we can talk about it. So, but we can see like why, or we can all discuss about it now. Why does this influence? No, for babies, we can think like, oh, these children, like it's like a canvas, right? In the canvas, you can take some grease or some mud or something, not only paint and beautiful artwork. Even if you drop some sauce or something, that will also stick, right? It will be there, no? So it's like a blank canvas, no? But I feel some people like they have gone through so much in life. uh, I'm not telling they're bad or anything like that, no? But their mind has like layers upon layers and layers. So then it can be like this, some things are not even it doesn't influence their mind even. But some people out of purity, or like they have made the mind so powerful or strong or through experience. uh, but yeah, we will talk about those also, no? Like, why is it really affecting, no? Like, I understand in children, it can really because they don't know much, right? And but the parents do, or like they were punished or abused or something that can really take a toll because that's the blank canvas, right? Uh, so still the adults also they go also through this, no? So what will your ideas will be about that or through personal experience, so we don't have to tell details. If you like, you can share. No, that will be nice. Anyways, no, like, but why are we getting caught up, and why does some things stick and no, some don't, right? And some people maybe far away, they are losing their lives, but it doesn't make us traumatized in a way, no? Like we hear and we about these things like bombs and all these things. And but something that like a little thing can traumatize a person, right? Some like here, some people see some insects or some animals, and still they can become traumatized, have phobia. It happens, right? Once I was like a bit afraid to approach that. There was a young lady in a meditation center, and she was all crouched up and like crying. Uh, I thought, oh my gosh, like something bad must have happened, no? Like, and it was in the evening time, like they give like supper, some sandwich, so some small thing with some coffee, and there, and then she was like, before the evening meditation session finished, like I went there, and those days I was a monk, and we could go and drink our coffee earlier, no, before the people came, and. Then what happened? I saw this, and then I didn't know what even. No, I come on, no, like, and then I informed some people over there. They also came, but it was just because of leeches. And yeah, but for her, it really impact. No, like I thought something big even had happened, right? From the way you never know, right? People can go some very bad thing can happen, right? Maybe she was coming on the way and somebody tried to harass her or something like that, no? Oh, it happened even, no? It seemed like that. She was really crouched up on the bench and she was like sobbing and no? So with both of your ideas, why do you think like this some things get stuck in the mind and why some don't even, no?
So it's such a fascinating topic, and we've already I feel like we've just scratched the surface, and we've almost sort of taken up our allocated hour or so. I mean, it doesn't matter if we go over a bit, but so really fascinating. So something that for me, an insight that I had probably about 6 years ago. So I I went and did a course which was about dealing with chronic pain, which I have. And it's essentially about coaching yourself when you find yourself getting into emotions that are not helpful. So, like anxiety or sadness or anyway, unhelpful emotions. So, and then basically you're taught how to coach yourself out of these emotions, and it's through movement, and it's through neural NLP, neuro linguistic process, I think it is. Anyway, so using certain words, coach yourself out of it. But what I learned from the teacher was, because he dealt with a lot of people who had post-traumatic stress disorder, and he would directly counsel them. And what he shared with us, and this was an amazing insight for me, and it's coming up for me to share with both of you now and our audience, is that if something happens and we can't process it at the time, we can't talk about it, we don't have a kind, supportive person to help us make sense of it, then it can get stuck. and we can replay it over and over in our mind, and we can't make sense of it, and it just sort of is like an ongoing cycle. So, for example, when Rae had her bike accident and slid on her face, she had her mother, she had, she was able to, like, there was loving arms around her, to say, okay, you've had an accident, and your mum sobbed, and you're like scars, you beauty, and but there was love around you, there was attention, there was, okay, you know, you were taken care of physically, emotionally, and you ruminated on it, but you were able to process it and pretty much let it go.
Yeah.
And then, so it didn't get stuck. But had it been a different situation, had you not had loving arms around you, anybody to talk to, you were perhaps put in a corner and said, you know, fend for yourself, we're not going to look after your wounds. It could have been a very different situation. So that's something for me that I often think of. And that's why it's so important to talk to trusted people when trauma happens. And that might be first responders, so like medical people. And what I think is happening more increasingly is that they are under so much more pressure that they don't have time to care for people properly and the way that they would want to. So then people may be able to talk to their family and friends. They may not be able to, because, as Rae said, some people don't want to hear it because it might trigger their trauma. So then it's about finding somebody who can hold space for you while you explain what has happened. And then that might be talking through it with a loving, supportive person who's not going to judge you. Then that might be enough to actually release that trauma. But it is very individual, but I would highly recommend for people to talk to others. And there may be situations, for example, where there's been abuse, and it may feel that you may experience shame or guilt or blame about that you've somehow contributed to the situation, and you might not want to talk to people. Or it may be that the person who's actually abusing you puts you in a position where they sort of isolate you so that you don't have other people to talk to, or so that you specifically feel like that somehow you're the one to blame and that there's something wrong with you. So, but even in those situations, please, please, please find someone, a trusted person who's not going to judge you, to talk to, because in those situations, we can get so disconnected from ourselves that we can't see what's going on. However, somebody who's a little bit more distant than us, who's not as emotionally involved, can point us in the right direction, or at least listen to us. And then often by talking therapies, I find my experience is that even with myself and these podcasts, which are so beautifully healing for me, that by talking something through, it helps our brains, our hearts, our spirits to somehow make sense of it, especially with compassionate people who hold space for us, like you two do. And that way, it helps us to process it. What I'd also love to share is that with Rae, I think that your current work that you do perhaps is healing perhaps trauma from your nursing career, because you now can slow down, you have the time to deal with situations in your own time. It's your business, you're your own boss. You don't have the matron of the ward bearing down on you and saying, get this done by this time, by yesterday, or else. And so I really feel that sense that perhaps that is what is happening. And I think that that's a real blessing, real blessing for you and for all the people that you help out. What else did I want to share? I also wanted to share that my late mother was a nurse. She was a midwife, and she would come, I think I might have mentioned this to Sanji in previous podcasts. She would come home from work. She worked night shifts, and she would come home from work and she would actually talk to me. I just remember her talking to us. It may specifically have been me because maybe I was the one who was listening. But I remember her coming home from work at, 7:30, 8:30 in the morning before we go off to school, before we'd have breakfast. And she'd say, oh, this happened. There was like a 15-year-old mum who didn't mean to get pregnant, who had the baby, or there was a mum who had a baby, but the baby was stillborn. And then she would talk about ways that they would help the mothers and the families to deal with that terrible, terrible grief. And she would talk about how they would ask the mothers, would they like to continue holding the baby, and they'd wrap the baby in a warm blanket so the baby was still warm, and also take photos of the mum with the baby or with the baby, so that later on, because the mum's mind would not, as when we're grieving, our cognitive function, our brains don't work properly. And I think that was what Rae was talking about, people having to give them time, or them not being able to make decisions quickly because, you just can't think straight. So that the midwives who worked with my mum and my mum were wise enough to know that sooner or later the mums might say, oh, I don't have a picture of my baby, oh, I didn't get to hold my baby, so that they're helping them to process that grief, and they can then, give them the photo or give the photo to the husband or a loved one to say, when the mum asks for the photo, here it is, and that you can remind her that she did get to hold her baby. And so I found that very, very moving and touching, listening to my mum. And I think that they were ways that she dealt with her trauma, her continual trauma. She loved her work, but and there was a lot of joy in her work because there were lots of beautiful babies that were born and happy families and mothers. But on the other flip side of the coin, the death of babies and the death of even mothers back in earlier times when medical care wasn't quite as sophisticated as it is, that mothers would die in childbirth as well. So that's what I'm wanting to share at the moment.
Yeah, that still happens. We still lose mums. It's awful. It's the worst. It's worse than losing a baby. It's very, very difficult. But I always think that, but we're gorillas too. If we need to hang on, some gorillas will hang on to their lost babies for days, and humans do that too. I remember one lady who held a baby for hours, 6 or 8 hours or something, and then let it go, and we took it to the morgue, of course. 13 times she got that baby back from the morgue. 13 that she needed to see it and hold it again. And that was fine. We just kept doing it until she didn't need to do it anymore. So we're not so different. Not so different from gorillas at all. It's whatever they need, whatever it takes. So, and you were talking about traumas sticking, you get stuck. That's got a lot to do with your beliefs. The most traumatic thing that's ever happened to me is I married my best friend. I had my biological clock was ticking away, and I just wanted Loris, my son. I just want, right or wrong, I wanted to have that baby, and I thought that the best thing for him would be to be married. So I married my best friend, who we were really close. We'd been friends for 10 years. We'd traveled all around Australia together, and we'd broken up and gotten back together, heaps of times. We knew each other inside out, and I thought, righto, he's he's he'll do. He's the right. Yeah, he's who should be Loris's dad. Anyway, we got married, and 3 months later, he ran off with the cleaning lady. It just about broke me. It broke me. Not that I wasn't um, in pain because he left me, because we've done that before. It was what my beliefs about the marriage was, grieving the marriage and the baby that I thought we would have. And yeah, so it was all, and it took me about a week of crying just non-stop, and just the worst pain, to the point where I wanted to end my life because it just hurt that much. And it was the only, I considered suicide only because that's the only control I felt I had over that pain. My decision to keep working through it or just not. Yeah, my friends got really worried, but anyway, yeah. For a whole week, just cried and cried until I worked through all the beliefs about the marriage and stuff. And then the most miraculous thing happened. Just one day I woke up, and instead of crying all day and all that pain, my mind was absolutely silent. There was no monkey mind, no chatter. There was just peace. It was the most wonderful thing, and I've been trying to get back there ever since. But yeah, so I think your beliefs around the death or the whatever the trauma is what keeps you stuck. And until you identify them and let them go, or somehow let them go, it can keep you in that state of suffering. Yeah.
I meet some people, like they are asking the question, like if somebody is like maybe in their 40s or 50s, why would they still be like upset about something happened in the childhood, no? And they grown adults now. So yeah, it's like in a way it's true, no? Like now it's an adult, but still, then there are people who argue also telling like we talking about these. I'm being honest, like giving them like saying this is a safe place, you can do it. So they're like telling no, like you are giving space for them to become even weaker, aren't you? Uh, so that's what no, their idea is like you're bringing it up and like giving them, not making them stronger, no? So but there is like different sides. You can vent it out, you can put it out, no? In ancient times so it says like therapy is like you put it like from any direction of your body to flush it out, no? So even talking to a person is called like a noble virechana, no noble how to say flush out. Even talking to somebody, no? So there are methods like that. So even some people, yeah, think that, but it seems in a way like why people are some people from a small thing it can happen, no? And some people, so just if we take like Rae's situation, it seems like she's a tough cookie from all days, right? No, like she had been around. No, I'm just telling, yeah, like so in a way because she spoke before, so I'm not telling in details, but suddenly she could just come out of something that had been happening for even 20 years or no, like so yeah, some kind of a pattern or some habitual thing, or you could just like, and I asked, how did you even do that? Because some people, it takes them decades, or like there are like repercussions that happen, no? Backlashes, or like, no? Or some people go through a stage of recovery, or there's like the body or something that urges it, no? So, in a way, like, yeah, we see these differentiations, no? And sometimes you don't even realize, like, in some time back, like, uh, the one person was making this sound with the mouth, right? And, like, I was like, it was like I heard this like couple of times, and I'm like really hitting me. No, I was like, what? Like, and then I remember my father did that. No, when he was upset with us, but I didn't know it had even like struck a dart in me, right? Like, no, but when this person was also doing this, like some stupid sound with the mouth, right? And then I was like, why is it even like my whole attention and everything just like went there, no? Then I was like, why am I like even listening to? He can make this person can make any sound they want, no? They can even whistle or sing a song, right? But then it like went like to those small days, like my father would ask me to do something and he was not satisfied. He would like make this so stupid sound. It is, but it really like after all this time also, no? Like yeah, I didn't even know there was something like that happening. Yeah, so there are things like you don't know, but this was as a children, no? But some people I have met like after election also, they are traumatized, like, and they were like upset and like oh my gosh, no, like with their heads down and like hands on their heads, and I won't say from which country or which anything like that, but they were like really like gone, like in a very like a deep, almost depressive state. So uh, yeah, so some people have that category of bouncing back. Some people we see like lot of chaos happening, but still they are able to laugh and no, even in extreme poverty conditions, and they don't feel like, oh come on, how can these people even laugh and smile and no? And then maybe their upbringing or like their even character, no? And we'll have to dig into these things. I think it will be very fascinating. Then we can, so uh, what it should be like, we make people even like now in the modern generation, they say like children or young people, it's so difficult to we get, you know, but in they say like the people from maybe like, I'm just telling you, like a generation before us even they faced the Second World War and these things, then they were naturally like very strong, no? Like mentally and physically both, right? They, I think they we like these health issues and all those. We see like those people, and they were slim and strong and like and mentally also, right? We don't hear so many, you know, in even parts like these countries, even going to a psychologist was very rare back in the day. Yeah. Like now there are so many like people, and then it's like a normal thing even. Uh, So we have to see like where is this turning point and why it happens, no? Is it ego that happens? But what extent does it happen to, no? Why some people are affected by little things, some people are affected, yeah, by big things, some people are not affected at all. So because like the same tragedy that happens to another person, maybe I'll be talking and giving advice. Okay, I'll just tell that like there was this famous person in a different country, and he used to go and give sermons in funerals. And then what happened was like his mother passed away, and he was depressed and weeping and everything. And he used to go to all these funerals and give sermons, not to like for the people. Then people ask him like, "Why are you crying and why are you so upset?" No, he said, "That is my mother."
Mm.
So he was honest and that, but then like okay, then what about the other people? No, they are also human beings. They also no, they also have value. But does that not affect you? No, and then why in a way like this world, like you see, it's very cold. No, the warmth, the compassion, these are very becoming scarce. No, for some in majority or no. So are we lacking that? No. Why don't we feel the pain of others as part of ours? Not that we have to suffer, no, but don't we feel it? That's why people are becoming cold or artificial, no? Or the new generations are like so affected by even little things, as somebody says, but still there's like harassment, bullying, no, all these things involved, or maybe man-made or like nature disasters. Uh, so I think there's like a lot of space for us to dig in to these things, no? Like, and then what part, how, yeah, we'll come to the fixing parts, no? But we have to see, no? Like, and as you said, that some people are pushed to the edge, they call one after the other, one after the other. Still, they try to do, but when we are working or in some places, like we have to forget it, even if it triggers us, right? Others, we cannot do that specific job, no? For some people, for no reason, things like blood can trigger. Uh, they don't even know, no, why that's happening, right? It happens, no, they faint even, no, because of blood, no, but they have not done a horrific crime or nothing has happened in their life regarding that. They were not in accident, no, but still and I think if they see something large, they can be traumatized, right? Uh, but it's not a weakling or anything like that. It just happens to them. Maybe karmic force or something happened in the past life, no? So yeah, I think it will be a vast topic to dig in. So uh, maybe last final thoughts, like why do you think like people are affected? I think this will leave a question mark for other people also to examine, or any direction you want to divert it. Uh, and Ray, please, like, as final uh, thoughts for this session, for this discussion or podcast, like, just we'll leave something for even for people, or ourselves also, to reflect and think, right? And then, yeah, coping mechanisms, it can work for us. Then, but what about the others then, no? Uh,
Yeah.
then when is the coping mechanism? How would you, even if you try to put it, then as when you talk to somebody, we might be like bringing up the things. Or like if it's a wound, when you start cleaning, it hurts more, right? But surely it's for the curing part. What if it becomes worse? And this person is unbearable and we open up like a can of worms or something, no? But it also has to be addressed, right? There are some people layers upon layer, at the outmost layer, they don't feel a thing. But for example, in meditation, right? Like and then you start doing it. Then it takes like little by little by little to the deep ends. Then some things, like even if you sit, like you started remembering like something happened in your childhood, you like you got a beating for like some silly thing, and then you don't even like, oh, this also happened, no? And you remember all the details and all. You didn't know it got stuck in your mind. So, so those things also start appearing. So when we are like counseling or helping try to people, no, like that, or just by listening, even the questions we ask could trigger a person. Uh, how do you know what to ask, no? In a way that doesn't trigger. So what are your like closing thoughts or about that kind of thing? But how can a person?
I think I was really lucky. I've come from a very, very functional family, and any traumas that happened to us, like my mum and dad went bankrupt when I was 5, and my grandparents died, and various traumas along the way. It was always spoken about openly. It was always out in the open. We'd always tell stories about it. We still tell stories about trauma. We turn everything into a story,
Mm-hmm.
and then tell other people. And yeah, that really helps. And then when I went nursing, we took it to the next level, and everything was funny.
Mm-hmm.
We could, but yeah, we laughed. Very, very dark humor, but that's
Mm-hmm.
that's how we cope with any
Coping.
it, with the awful things. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, out in the open, turn it into a story, turn it into a funny story, and then it would kind of dissolve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how I've gotten through life. And I think everybody's base beliefs make a big difference. I'll never forget, we had a teenage girl. She was a late teens, 18 or 19. She was in a terrible motorbike accident. She just about broke every bone in her body. And she was in intensive care, unconscious on a ventilator, and very obviously not going to make it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she just wasn't. So we were supporting her to give her the benefit of the doubt. But her family, I'll never forget them, because they believed very strongly in the afterlife, and they were very, I thought they were flower power at the
Mm-hmm.
time, but they believed in heaven, life after death, reincarnation. They were way ahead of me, and they were already speaking about her moving on, and wasn't she lucky, and she was such a beautiful soul, and they coped. They were amazing. And when that girl actually died, it was a celebration for them.
Mm-hmm.
Just wow. So what a lesson. That was amazing. So how you were brought up in your family, keep it. My family's favorite saying is face it. face it. So none of us ever crawled into a bottle, you know, and drank too much alcohol to cope with things because, yeah, face it out in the open, turn it into a story, turn it into a funny story. Yeah. Yeah, and question your beliefs because they're just beliefs. Most of them aren't true. And if you get, I've learned, if you get a big emotional reaction, like when I was mourning my first ex-husband, because I have many now. The first one was the hardest. I've only got two. But I was mourning what I believed marriage should be, and you know the shame of telling people that my marriage only lasted 3 months, and that was all just beliefs that you can just dissolve them and let them go, and now I turn that into a funny story. Yeah. Bless that cleaning lady. She just took out the trash. Mm. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Anthea?
I think that I really resonate with what Ray's talking about in terms of beliefs, and I appreciate that story about the lady who had been in a horrific accident and her family were almost celebrating that she was going to a better place.
Yep.
Because I think that can be very helpful. I think that as a society, particularly in Australia, I've never experienced being raised in any other country, so I only know my own experience. But I think that there's a fear of death and of dying, and I don't think that is necessarily healthy. And I've found in my own experience, and I can talk about it perhaps again a little bit more next week, but that when someone dies, and talking about it for me is really important. But some people, for whatever reason, and it could be that they have their own traumas around death, they can't give you the space to talk about it because it may trigger them. But for me, it's very, very important to have compassionate people around me to talk about it with. And so different faith systems, different belief systems see death differently. And it could be that death is actually the ultimate thing that can happen to us. It can be going to the best possible place. It can be a release from suffering in this world. So it can be something that is to be celebrated. So I'll leave my sort of closing final comments about that, but potentially next week I can unpack that a little bit more, and we can, explore that a little bit more. But so death is not necessarily to be feared. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Yeah. All right. And Sanji, have you got some closing thoughts?
No, I said a
Final
lot.
thoughts?
Yeah, like you said, like if we can turn it around, uh, and some people say like if you have bitter lemons, turn it into lemonade, right? I know it's not easier said than done. But and in a third person perspective or like in a different, it's easy to say, no, but when it hits personally sometimes, but that is kind of not an excuse also, no, people should not suffer, right? Like you can say, oh, it's me who's suffering, or like, yeah, it's me who went through that, but we don't want you to suffer, no? Like we don't want you, but we cannot, like, it's not like you have, oh, get out of it, right? It's or like get over it or something. You cannot just push a person like that. But in a way, it's not, you cannot like pamper them forever also, right? Because they have to come out of it, but you have, no, you cannot wait till like 100 years. Are you going to do the same? No, not possible. What if their supporting people are not there no more, right? Then how long are you going to drag it for these people, right? So that's also a thing maybe we had to discuss because we all three are in those kind. We meet people like that, and no, and we try to help ourselves and then others also, no, or with the experience we had in our life, we try to share that, and like maybe that will help somebody else, no. So yeah, and we can dig into the other aspects of things, maybe a three-part series or something even, right? And maybe see the core of things maybe next week, no? And then the last one of like how to recover from these things, or what are the measures. So, or what we individually did even, right? We spoke a bits and pieces here, no? But what if something really big happens, no? And then how are we going to cope? What is your coping mechanism? No. So there are so many things, and are you ready for it? No, like, oh, well, if something happens tomorrow, then what are you going to do about it? No. So there should be, right? Even for the fact of death or anything like that. And then why people are like suffering, or like when you go to those days, you as monks and all, you have to go to the funerals, and when you hear the people crying, and sometimes it's not even about that person who passed away. It's about themselves. Like, how are we going to cope? Or who's going to take care of us now? Yeah, it's related to that person, but actually that cries and that agony, or that you feel sad for those people. Not that we are thinking in a bad way about them, but you hear about like what's no like in another aspect, somebody would be maybe waiting for somebody else to pass to get their heritage or something, right? Yeah, but no. So see the different ways, and no, so belief systems, no, and how it affects each person. This all we can dig in more, and like I think George also can join, no? And she'll also have a share to share, or any other person for the. I think everybody goes through some kind of things in their life, and either they get over it or they suppress it, or just, they have too many things. They they have no time to think about it, no? But at a later age, these things can pop up also, because in little by little, our thinking patterns and all that kind of like the brain functions and all like kind of uh, decrease, then these inner things that are stuck can really like people using substances, no? Then some things in there, even alcohol, no, brings up those kind of things which are really stuck. They start crying, or like, or like being aggressive or violent, or even telling things without a filtration or anything, right? You did this and that to me, all that. So let's dig into this, and we'll try to make it in a not to feel sad and all that. No, like it's good. Like when I some good nice teachers, they say like say celebrate grief, and his own father passed away, and he was so small, but he used to go for these pubs, and he used to see this first time the groups, no, like used to play these famous groups that later became very famous, but they were there just for the night, and they would scream out in like one more, one more, one more, no? But eventually they would pack up their gear and go, and then they would leave, and then but walking back home, maybe in the rain or anything, we would think, "Oh, what a nice performance," and they would cherish that, right? Not that they were sad that they packed the gear and left. So he went to his father's passing away. His father was a nice person, and he put that, and he could cope up like that, it seems. So there are so many things if we can cherish, and sometimes like life itself, to cherish it while it's there, no, the value. So I think we go in so many directions, so many things opening up, no? And let's explore, and we'll invite other people also. Hopefully I can put this video out soon, no? And then like and I start inviting other people also. We can share the links and post all these kind of things. And to be nice, no, like people joining it. So it's open to all, even to add their, they can say, we don't believe this, no, this is not true, or anything like that, right? It's open conversation, no? But I think everybody has their own fair share, and it's how they cope up with it, or if they want to grab hold of it or sync with it. or even some people float with it, right? They use that as a like how to say elevation or no stepping stone, and they go reach higher peaks, right? Even athletes and people, they also go even just by losing one. Some people retire, right? Or even some injustice happens, right? Even in could be in a game, no split seconds, and the whole career goes down, right? It can happen. No? So it's yeah, it seems like for us, like okay, this is we can do the next one maybe, no? But this person's so where's the balance? Then how can we see it from outside? No, so many things, and how can we relate to that, right? And who understand? They say to understand a person, you have to walk like 1,000 miles in their own shoes, but it's not possible even, right? To walk in that same shoes, right? Of that person's unique experience, no? We'll dig into these things, and we'll have time to think about these things also, right? Yeah.
Sounds great. So look forward to part 2 of trauma and trauma, perhaps just trauma for next week. Yeah, unpacking trauma. And then week 3, we can look at trauma recovery and perhaps even prevention. Not that we can prevent trauma from happening, but we can live in such a way that it is supportive. We create a supportive environment around ourselves through different practices and being around positive people, so that when and if the trauma happens, that we've got a safety net around us. So on that note, thank you both for joining me this evening. It's always a pleasure and an honor. I love spending time with you both and listening to your wisdom and experience and compassion. And I very much look forward to the next time that we meet. And yeah, that's probably about it from me. Just thank you, and looking forward to next conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Anthea. Thank you,
Thank you,
Rae.
Anthea. Thanks, Angie.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Andy, thank you, Rae.
Everybody also
Bye.
have a great day or great evening or good night to you all also. Okay, talk to you soon.